Man, what year was this? Like 2000, 2001? Well, social media emerged. And what ends up happening in the early days of social media was that people started to adopt the internet more and more. Now, mobile phones play a big role in this too, but I'll get to that. Ultimately, what happens is the market starts shifting from television, which is hyper-centralized media narratives going out to tens of millions of people, to the internet. People begin reading websites like the Huffington Post instead of the New York Times, online-only platforms. These platforms have low overhead and are able to survive with very low revenue. You don't need massive startup costs or big investment like you would need for a newspaper. However, with mass adoption comes an interesting phenomenon. At a certain point, Facebook realized that the most amount a person could absorb is around having around 300 friends on Facebook or liked posts would result in your feed moving too quickly for you to actually see or engage with anything meaningfully. This presented a problem. In the early days of Facebook, you'd see the posts in reverse chronological order. Your friend would post something, you'd see it. You'd then interact with it. But people had relatively few friends. I mean, in the early days, it was like 100, 200. So you could keep up with what people were posting. Then we got pages, brands, bands, media companies, whatever, and you'd like what they were posting. But eventually people got to over 300 connections, and the posts were moving so quickly, people weren't seeing the people they liked anymore, and this threatened the business. This is when the algorithms were introduced. Facebook decided we need to create something that chooses the best of the content so that people stay on the website longer. And so they did. They programmed algorithms that, such as Facebook's, all these companies, they programmed algorithms that basically said, of all of the things being posted, show people what is most likely to get engagement. In the early days of YouTube, this resulted in every thumbnail being a woman in a bikini. I am not exaggerating. Take a look at all the early videos. All the big YouTubers in the early days when they were getting started, their thumbnails would be women in a bikini. Many channels developed massive followings with fake thumbnails. YouTube eventually said, hey, no fake thumbnails, we'll ban you for this. Because they were trying to create an algorithm that would show you what you wanted to see, but they couldn't. Here's where it goes. Eventually, what happens? Well, there's a great video I often cite by CGP Grey, one of the OG YouTubers, called something to the effect of like, this video will make you angry, or something to that effect. It talks about how anger is the most likely to induce a reaction on social media. So what happens then is, these media websites like the Huffington Post, like Mike.com, like BuzzFeed, figure out. In the early days, it was listicles and cats. These are the things that everyone thought would go viral online. Charlie bit my finger, things like that, the old memes, if you remember them all. But eventually they realized, hey, we wrote an article about police brutality. We got 1 million views. People don't like injustice. It makes them angry, and they're likely to interact with it because they want to be good. One by one, these platforms started to adopt this. In fact, libertarians who were never really cared about social justice issues all of a sudden couldn't stop talking about racism. You see, it started with some libertarians as police brutality is wrong. They would post these videos of mocking feds, of doing 1A or 2A audits, and then they'd find these pages that when you got a video of a cop stopping a guy or harassing a guy, you'd get 1 million views. 1 million views was cash in the bank. But then they figured something out. If the person was black and it was racist, they got a bigger reaction. One by one, these media companies began to post these things about racism. Racism is bad. Why? This buzzword was generating tons of traffic for them. But then they discovered something very interesting. You see, the way the algorithms work, it's exponential returns. YouTube even tells you this when you make videos. They say, you got more clicks on this video, resulting in more recommendations. Well, guess what? More recommendations mean more clicks. It's a snowball rolling down a hill. The more clicks you get, the more clicks you're going to get, the faster you rise in the algorithm. What happens? These companies figure out that, hey, if I write about sexism, I get X views. If I write about racism, I get Y views. But if you write about racist sexism, you get XY views. That is not X plus Y. That is X times Y, an algorithmic boost. The more views you get, you exponentially increase the return on your views, resulting in the rise of intersectionality. One by one, every single one of these news websites all over the world saw a massive increase in social justice, racism, sexism, police brutality. Countries that for no reason have nothing to do with Americans' history on racism, started having BLM protests because the media outlets saw that American social media algorithms were promoting articles about American issues. What does this do? A couple things. Largely conservatives weren't following these stories. Many of these conservatives were pro-cop. The bifurcation had begun. More importantly, many of them weren't using these social media platforms in the same way. There were many rural communities with weaker internet, so they weren't as active online as urban communities. I'm talking about very early days of internet. I'm talking about 2000s. Cell phone coverage is the key component. While today you have cell phone coverage basically everywhere, the bifurcation was created. There always was going to be one between Democrats and Republicans. That's obvious with their disagreements. And the internet has only inflamed tensions. I will jump back now to this article to bring it all together. This man talking about how we are heading towards a civil war in 2022 claims that one of the driving forces is 400-year legacy of white supremacy. This person is suffering from deep delusions. That's just true. Now, of course, the left and the woke will say, no, you're wrong, Tim. This country is white supremacist. It's just not true. It's just fundamentally false. The evidence, well, it's called controls in science. We can take a look at every other country and how they treat foreigners, ethnic minorities, and you can see the United States actually has one of the best track records opposing racism and guaranteeing civil rights. This history of white supremacy is a fabrication, an amalgam of garbled nonsense meant to generate clicks. I'll give you a simple version of it. There are a bunch of stories, Elsagate being the easiest way to understand this. If you're not familiar with Elsagate, it was a period in YouTube history that goes down in infamy where millions upon millions of views were generated in these Benny Hill style silent videos of the Joker, Spider-Man, and Elsa chasing each other around. It was really weird. The algorithm recommended long form videos with these characters in it because children liked them. And so the reaction was, people discovered, if I make a video with Elsa, Spider-Man, and the Joker, I'm going to get 1 million views and I'm going to make 20 grand. So they would. Understand this. Ask yourself why it is. There were so many finger family videos, they call it, because people crack the algorithm to get views, to figure out how to make money. They figure out what the algorithm wants and they make it. And that is what has created this harsh divide in this country, which is driving us, in my opinion, towards civil war. Hillary Clinton, in her delusional mind, is now saying the people who oppose this, who are on the other side, should be arrested and charged. So there's no off-ramp. The only victory that the only way out of this is going to be a harsh political victory of Donald Trump. It's true. Democrats largely live in a deluded state. Now, of course, I'm sorry. Some will say, Tim, you're biased. You're a Republican. You're far right, blah, blah, blah. There's a video from Christopher Rufo of cats on a grill. The media today says it's fake. The corporate press says J.D. Vance and Trump lied about it. Chris Rufo has a guy on the record, more than one, saying they've seen it. He has video of it. He found the grill. But none of that really matters. That's his report. Maybe he's a liar. I don't know. It's possible. But we watched the video. I don't know what else to tell you. You know, at a certain point, we all are going to decide what we think is true. But I'm going to have to go with, there's a bunch of people complaining about this problem. There's a video of it happening. People have posted online for years about eating cats in Haiti, but the media would tell you not to believe your lying eyes. For these Democrats who live in this world where they watch CNN and MSNBC all day, I don't see how meaningful change comes so long as this bifurcated reality continues to exist. The people who believe that we live in a 400-year-old legacy of white supremacy, how we got so divided. Can you believe this? This is what Time magazine is claiming. They're not going to be convinced otherwise. They live and breathe the lies, which says to me, we're heading towards something calamitous. I could be wrong about everything. I hope I am. I hope that in a couple years, maybe I'm sitting in a lounge chair eating buffalo chicken wings, watching, I don't know, the X Games or something, snowboarding perhaps. Donald Trump is shaking hands with Democrat House leader, whatever, and, tax policy is being debated. Wars are simmering down. People in this country are like, man, that was a crazy time. That was a crazy time. Civil strife does not always lead to civil war. The civil rights era was largely considered a period of civil strife in the United States, and it did not result in a civil war. That being said, in our lifetime, I don't think things have ever been this bad. So we'll see. If you think I'm wrong, give me the super chats. Tell me why you think I'm wrong, because I hope I am. I really do. For now, I can tell you this. I'm just some dude who reads the news. I complain on the internet, read the news, and give you my thoughts. Maybe everything I'm breaking down is just not correct, but I'll wrap it up there.